And now, CL 650 presents Anthony Gismondi and Casey Wilson. This is Tony and Casey's Best of Food and Wine. Now, here's Tony and Casey.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Best of Food and Wine. I'm Tony Gismondi.
I'm Casey Wilson. I've been waiting for you and for the couple's massage. You still haven't shown up.
I could use a couple's massage actually right now. I came out of tasting with 10 Italians.
Oh, wow. You look so normal.
And all 10 said their English wasn't that good.
And?
Oh, it was pretty good. It was fun. I think it's part of what goes on here in Vancouver. The Italians have had a great week here. They're so appreciative of the audience and the people that come up to the booth and the knowledge that they have. So it's been really great. But enough about the Italians. Let's talk about the Canadians in America. I think that's the way to go. Our next guest, Peter Wille, is Director of Sales from Lake Sonoma Winery, owned by Quail Skates.
Now that's
family.
a story, Peter.
Absolutely. We were very fortunate to pick up this property down in Sonoma. We purchased it 4 years ago. So for us as Canadians to be down in Sonoma and making AVA-specific wines from Alexander Valley, wines from Dry Creek, wines from Russian River, and putting the famous Quail's Gate touch to them, really trying to over-deliver on the wine from a price perspective.
Does it make you want to come back to Canada and create some sub-appellations in the Okanagan?
Not at this point, but I think that's going to happen down the road.
Yeah.
I absolutely believe that's going to happen. We already have the Golden Mile, so we're well on the way here in British Columbia.
Well, great to see you. And what's it been like for you to go down there? What are some of the differences, I guess I should ask?
Well, first of all, the big thing is the exchange rate, what has happened in the last 4 years.
Yeah.
We were extremely fortunate purchasing the winery 4 years ago when the exchange rate was pretty much at zero.
Yeah.
But now, as you're well aware, it's 30 points out. So
you could sell it now and come home with a pile of dough.
We could. I'd be out of a job, so that's not a good thing.
Yeah.
So no, it's very interesting doing business down there. Obviously, quite different than Canada. We have to have distributors in every single state.
Sure.
So it takes a little bit more work in lining that side of things up.
Mm-hmm.
But here in Canada, the wine that we're talking about is Lake Sonoma.
Yep.
It is actually national now. We don't have it national with every single SKU, but we are in every single province except for Prince Edward Island and Newfoundland, and I'm sure we'll pick those two up this summer.
So Lake Sonoma, tell us a bit about the name or the winery. Was this a reiteration of a winery, or it's always been Lake Sonoma?
Well, what happened was when we purchased the winery itself, it was actually called Valley of the Moon.
Right.
And under that,
a rather famous name in Sonoma.
Exactly. Under that label, they had a couple of additional labels, and one of those was Lake Sonoma. So this brand actually was originated in 1977.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of mothballed a bit.
Mm-hmm.
When we purchased the winery, we really thought that Lake Sonoma had more legs here in Canada than Valley of the Moon did.
Yeah.
We refurbished it, came up with a new label, totally new package, new winemaker, new look, much more premium in style. And we also went AVA specific, which is obviously very important for the quality of the juice that you're getting.
Yeah.
And we've made a valiant effort here in Canada. We've actually put much more focus on this particular brand in Canada than we have in the United States.
Great. And the results have been?
The results have been fantastic.
Oh, that's great.
We love Sonoma.
As a matter of fact, the Cabernet, we just got it into stock again here in British Columbia. We were out for the last 4 weeks.
Yeah.
It's back in stock. The Zinfandel is also in stock, which are the two wines we're going to hopefully enjoy here in a second.
Yeah.
We also have a Chardonnay from Russian River that's available here in British Columbia.
Which is quite good. I've had that as well.
Very crisp, very clean, lots of citrus flavors to it.
Yeah.
Very different than a lot of the other California products.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Sonoma has its own sort of energy, and I don't know. It's really managed to carve out quite a nice niche for itself in the California market.
I think so.
I mean, it used to be Sonoma against Napa, but now I don't think that's even an issue, really. It's a completely different kind of style of wine.
Yeah, it is. It's much more fruit-forward style. They're a little cleaner. For example, in the Chardonnay, it's crisper, a lot more citrus flavors. It's not a big, full malolactic type Chard.
Yeah.
And even the Cabernet and the Zinfandel here, they're much. The Cabernet is much more Bordeaux-ish in style than it is really a Napa style.
Yeah. So sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to ask you, as a director of sales, do you have any input into how you're going to price wines?
Absolutely.
Okay, great.
Well, he's got to sell them. So.
And it's tough, right?
It is, and you know, I alluded earlier in our conversation to the exchange rate. So when we first came into Canada, we were selling these wines 3 years ago here in Canada. The exchange rate was only out by about 10 points, but
Yes.
now it's up to almost 30 points. So it makes it a little bit more difficult. We have priced based on the old formula, so for your consumers, this is an
A really good
absolutely
deal.
exceptional buy because we haven't moved price up yet. A lot of the California wineries obviously have due to the exchange rate, so it's an opportunity for the folks here in Vancouver to pick up a very high-end California wine for a reasonable price.
Yeah.
And both the Cabernet and the Zinfandel are available through the BC Liquor Board, so
good.
most liquor stores do stock them.
Sure. So you brought both of them. What are we going to start with, the Cab or the Zin?
I'd like to start with the Cab just
Okay.
because it's
Is it
fresh.
2014?
It's 2014. It's absolutely brand new. We just brought it into the market. Lots of berry fruit on it.
It's Alexander Valley.
Alexander
so it has all those classic Alexander Valley notes to it.
Yeah.
We'll talk about this wine. It's quite delicious.
You've got a lot of notes there.
yeah, I got a lot of notes. Well, Alexander Valley's really sort of carved out a little niche for itself as well. It used to be sort of like I wouldn't say it was the poor cousin, but it was that sort of hot place up north. But really, the wines have really excelled there in the last decade or so.
Absolutely. As far as the pricing of the fruit coming out of Alexander Valley, it's probably the most expensive fruit you can purchase in Sonoma County.
Yeah.
It's a little more linear than some of the Napa Cabernet. They're a little bit bigger, high in residual sugars.
Yeah.
So you end up having a little bit higher alcohols. These I find them to be a little bit more balanced, much more fruit forward.
Yeah.
Still having that great length, that excellent complexity. By the way, this is not 100% Cabernet Sauvignon. We have blended in a few other varietals to make it more Bordeaux in style. This is 86% Cabernet Sauvignon, and then we've got 4% Merlot blended in. We have 4% Cabernet Franc, 3% Petit Verdot, and 3% Malbec.
Nice.
So a very nice Bordeaux,
Bordeaux style.
inspired red.
What has the family taken to Sonoma, do you think, or
What the Stewart family
Yeah,
has
when you're
taken?
down there, and the Stewart family's in Sonoma now, and they're sitting around in meetings. What sort of things is it a different? I don't know if it's different. I guess you'd have to be from the U.S. to really answer that. But
Yeah. Well, I think we've taken some of the Canadian culture with us down there.
yeah,
We really are focusing on over delivering. Having owned Quails Gate Winery since 1989, we've been making wine for a long time. This is not a new thing for us to make wine. So really, we've gone out and we've hunted down some of the best AVAs in Sonoma that you can possibly get. So the objective wasn't just to make general Sonoma Appellation reds and whites. The objective was to over deliver on the quality.
yeah. This is not a wine for the Canadian market in particular.
No.
So when you talk about AVAs and selling an Alexander Valley wine or a Dry Creek Valley wine or a Russian River, is it happening in the U.S. now? Like, is that something that consumers are more dialed in on?
It is definitely on the West Coast. Not so much on the East Coast of the United States,
Yeah.
but definitely on the West Coast. And in Canada, it seems to be more relevant even than in the United States.
Yeah.
We do sell these wines outside of North America as well.
Okay.
So we are flying those flags as those specific AVAs, trying to educate consumers on them, so
Yeah.
that it's really a point of difference from what General Sonoma is. And I think people are learning. The wine culture is growing worldwide. It's not a phenomenon that's only happening here in British Columbia or California. It's happening around the world. I'm going over to Germany here in about 10 days for Provine. We have distributors in Switzerland. We have a distributor in Denmark. We have a distributor in the UK. I'm doing winemaker dinners in all of those countries, promoting these wines.
You're having fun.
Yeah,
I'm having a lot
sounds
of fun.
very exciting.
Having a lot of fun.
And you're in pretty rarefied air with the vineyards around you also
Absolutely.
in Sonoma.
Absolutely. And we're also in one of the oldest wineries. A lot of people don't realize that the winery was actually built in 1863.
Wow.
That's pre-Prohibition. It's one of the oldest wineries in California. And some of the buildings that were built back in 1863 are still on the property. As a matter of fact, the backdrop to our tasting bar, the rock wall that we have as the backdrop to the tasting bar, is the exterior wall of the original building that was built in 1863.
Well, that's
So
kind of
it's,
fun. You don't see that in the Okanagan Valley.
No. And we have right on the property itself, we have 75 acres. We have a beautiful Zinfandel vineyard with 75-year-old vines. They're 6 to 8 inches across at the base. They're bush pruned.
Wow.
It's that history. You can't buy that kind of history.
Well, I'm just tasting this wine, and of course, years ago, I remember Kim Stair-Wallace, I think, coming up from Dry Creek,
Yes.
talking about Zinfandel back then.
Yes.
When we weren't really talking about regions, just more about Zinfandel. They were kind of the first people to start, wanting us to zero in on different regions, and Dry Creek has a strong reputation for Zinfandel. I love the fruit. It's very specific.
Yes.
Yeah.
And how did you find a winemaker? Was that difficult? Is the winemaker Canadian or American?
No, she's American, and we actually inherited Kat. Her name is Kat Adams, and she started at the winery itself in 2006. So being 2016, we purchased it 4 years ago, so 2012. So she's been with the company for 10 years. So acquiring a winemaker of her caliber that has worked for the operation for that many years, she knows where all the skeletons are.
Exactly,
and
that's
she
wonderful.
knows the vineyard. She knows which areas are great, which areas aren't. She's a real godsend for us.
Yeah.
She's fantastic.
We're talking with Peter Wille. He's the director of sales for Lake Sonoma Winery, which is owned by the Stewart family, who own Quails Gate Vineyard right here in the Okanagan. Of course, they're from Sonoma. Now, these wines are in distribution in British Columbia.
They are.
And the price of the wines, can you help us out with the Cabernet and the Zin?
Absolutely. Price is fantastic. As I mentioned, they're both below $30, well below 30 as a matter of fact.
Wow.
The Zinfandel sells for $22.49.
Well, that's amazing.
That's pre the 15%
all
that gets
the other
added on.
tax. Yeah.
So,
we know.
So $22.49, and the Cabernet Sauvignon sells for $24.49. So
Great.
very
Wow,
good.
that's impressive.
And there's a difference in the vintage. Is it just the 2012 is the Zin? Is it just fluke or?
No, we're right at the tail end. We're just about to switch to 13.
Okay.
And we just ran out of the 13 on the cab.
Yeah.
It seems like
People buy a lot of cab, eh?
cab is out of control.
Yeah.
We absolutely can't keep it in stock.
Crazy.
So
Well, it's nice to have a ripe, delicious Cabernet in the mix too.
it's amazing how balanced it is for such a young wine, because it is young.
I don't want to confuse the brands, but are you selling any Quails Gate down in Sonoma now?
We are selling a little bit of Quails
At the
Gate.
winery, or
No,
is that?
no, we're not selling any at the winery, but we do business in California,
Right.
and we do business in Washington and a few other states.
Sure.
We've been fortunate enough to have a good importer on record in Washington State, and we also deal with a Canadian restaurant chain that has opened up in the United States, which is Earl's.
Right.
So we're in all of their locations.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
fantastic.
which is fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. Well, good to catch up with you. There's a large crowd out there awaiting you.
Fantastic. I'm going to go
That was
pour
a-
some wine for them.
That was a bit of a mournful look. Yeah, it's the last night.
Yes,
The
it is.
energy will come up.
I'm sure it will.
Yeah. Peter, thanks so much for joining us and sharing these wines.
My pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
Lake Sonoma Winery, both Cabernet Zinfandel and Chardonnay you'll find them around in British Columbia.
They are available through
In-
pretty much every liquor store in BC
Yep.
and private
Some
stores
private
as
wine
well.
shops,
and
yeah.
quite a few restaurants have supported us.
Great.
We've been doing business with a lot of restaurants with Quails Gate, obviously, so we
Sure.
have some great connections with some very prestigious restaurants in British Columbia that are supporting us.
That's terrific. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Peter Wille from Director of Sales from Lake Sonoma Winery. We are coming to you live tonight. We're on location at the 2016 Vancouver International Wine Festival, and we'll take a short break. When we come back, we're coming back to British Columbia, and we'll talk to our old friend Eric von Krosek.
And we mean old.
This is the Best of Food and Wine show, broadcasting live from the Vancouver International Wine Festival, where you can enter to win a deluxe 2-night stay at Painted Boat Resort Spa and Marina on the Sunshine Coast. Visit paintedboat.com.